Back Chess versus EBUBU.
And noting again, Road to H-Rank hitting EBUBU with the HF and not the GLHF. It seems to be a trend for them, but we'll see how that works out.
What do you think is the comparison of how lucky Back Chess's opponents are compared to the average? What do you think? Do you think it makes a difference?
The luck factor. I feel like there's definitely at least a little bit of RNG when it comes to Tetrio, you know, block placements and etc. But in general, I think the luckiest thing isn't even the opponents. It is Road to H-Rank's Q. I feel like a lot of situations, they are able to escape it because they have a really nice Q. I don't know if it is them looking ahead or what, but seems like looking ahead here, EBUBU is going to be taking the first round while I was talking. That's my bad. But yeah, putting on a precedent that APM and attack could be the deciding factor of this match so far.
Ooh, but first, we have got some PC gaming, but Back Chess not going to be able to find that second one. This is a DPC solve from EBUBU, not going to find it though, and that is very, very good news for Back Chess. Could have been a very, very quick end, and that is the sort of scary thing playing at a slower speed where you can kind of just get opener. If you're going at 2.5 PPS, it doesn't really matter how efficient you are if you're playing against 400 APM DPC. That said, we know that Back Chess has the defensive prowess to survive even insane opener things like that. We know that they have the survival necessary to make those comeback, but do they have the survival necessary to survive this spike? I don't think so. 2-0 EBU.
Yeah, it seems like EBUBU had almost 400 versus there, truly putting on the pressure and showing that they can really bring it to an opponent that isn't playing almost exactly the same as they are. So it's going to be a little bit of a different match from EBUBU that we've seen tonight. Oh, 17-20 spike from Road to H-Rank, but EBUBU's masterful cancel means that almost none of it is going to be even touching their board or seeing the light of day. 14 spike from EBUBU means that they take the third round for this match here.
4.2 PPS. Insane pressure coming out from EBUBU there. That is some absolutely wild APM and far from the defensive standstill that we saw with EBUBU versus Ellie. We know that they are putting on the gas, and we know that Back Chess is speeding up as a result, going 3.3 now. This is almost a full PPS higher than they were going previously, and this is again what we saw as the adaptation against Promo. An unfortunate misdrop there may mean the only thing they're adapting to is being down 4-0.
Yeah, perhaps Back Chess was not prepared for the sudden burst of speed that they had and misdropped as a result, but we'll see if they continue on with that or they retreat back into the playstyle that they're more comfortable with here. Seems like they're pretty comfortable with this LST though from Road to H-Rank, clearing up their board into a misdrop though. Let's see if EBUBU has the punish for it. It seems like they had a little bit of a misdrop on their board, not able to find it in time, but they are able to find a continuation into playing a little bit more Tetrio right now.
Absolutely, and hey, speaking of continuation, this is going to be a wild continuation for Back Chess as they open up the well with that TSS into Skim Quad, sending over a lot of cheese to EBUBU's side, and EBUBU going to have to do some skimming in order to open up the well, but they have a great weight on that clean garbage that's going to give them a chance to start building up that back-to-back with this LST-like shape. And again, we know that EBUBU's back-to-back can be devastating. That was some great garbage to top it off, and EBUBU is doing a little bit of breed right now. They realize that and opt to break the back-to-back in favor of maintaining a better and cleaner board state, and that is a very important decision to make. That would have been a make-or-break scenario for EBUBU. They opt to just keep it clean, keep it calm. They have got the lead. They are under no onus to make these crazy plays. They are they're sort of passing the ball to Back Chess's court. They're saying, if you want to take this round, you need to commit to wild things. Me, all I need to do is keep doing what I'm doing.
Absolutely, that is something that you can do if you are in the lead. An important qualification for EBUBU here. Well, downstack spike from EBUBU, but Road to H-Rank has a very nice cancel, meaning that it's not touching the board either. Both players are clearly very skilled in the canceling, only really accepting when they want to or they're unprepared to. But, speaking of canceling though, yet again, EBUBU has the perfect timing in order to receive the spike from Road to H-Rank, sending it straight back to them.
Alright, and here we go. Speaking of Road to H-Rank, we have Road to H-Rank starting to build up some APM of their own. They're at the bottom of the board. There is no cheese to get through here. There is only the back-to-back beginning to build. EBUBU misdrops, and that is all they need to put a point on the board. 1-4 up against EBUBU.
Yeah, definitely a big point for them. It's good to stop your opponent before they get too much on the roll because, you know, your momentum slows, theirs only builds, but stopping the pressure early can be really, really big for the mental side of games here. Seems like Road to H-Rank does have a pretty sizable well here. 13 spike over to EBUBU, but EBUBU has a very, very nice cancel, as we've seen them do multiple times before, in order to keep the game fairly even and balanced for both players. Ooh, this is building up a little bit, going for a little bit more T-spins. Back-to-back 6 versus EBUBU's back-to-back 2. Road to H-Rank is definitely online here, back-to-back 8, but unfortunately breaking in order to preserve their board state.
Yeah, you've got to wonder if that was a pass-through diff right there. That was a very interesting scenario where they had a lot of garbage that was incoming and a lot of garbage that was outgoing, so that was an unfortunate situation where pass-through may have proved more useful to them in that moment, but instead, they're going to be left with a huge counter spike, sending over that 11, sending over 5 more again. This back-to-back starting to build, and Backchess needs to do something about it fast. Here we go, this ST stacking starting to help out a lot with the EBUBU's APM. They have 9 back-to-back right now, and they open up the well very cleanly with that count to 4 times 11 times 12, a 16 spike being sent over, but again, the defensive ability of Backchess unmatched here, surviving and sending over a 12 to boot, and they take the round.
That was absolutely ridiculous. EBUBU had so much pressure and clearly decided to commit to the back-to-back and try to top out Backchess, but Backchess unfortunately just had the perfect cue in order to punish EBUBU's for their board state here. Speaking of board states though, EBUBU playing off of an all clear here, building up a little bit as Backchess's attacks seem to grow in power and exponentially. He was going down a little bit, trying to fix the board state, while Road to H-Rank has a spike of their own, 12 spikes sent over to EBUBU, who's pushed up a little bit higher to the top.
Alright, and speaking of push, Backchess kind of making a push to take this round right now with this weird TST setup they had, but unfortunately not going to find a way to convert that into the spike that they need to take the round at that moment, but they do get a 14 on the way down, and EBUBU's looking a bit cheesed up.
Yeah, speaking of the cheese though, EBUBU trying to cancel the other cheese that's coming to the board, but it turns out to be pretty clean overall for them, which is really, really good for this counter spike that is coming from EBUBU. 15 spike to Road to H-Rank, but Backchess does have the cancel and continues with their offense here.
Alright, and here we go. It is EBUBU sitting on a lot of cheese up against Backchess's back-to-back, and there's going to be, yeah, that's going to be it. The LST proving too much for EBUBU to handle, and what was 4-0 is now 4-3. Back is back in this match. They have brought it back, Chess, and now they're going to take it home, or at least try to. And we're going to see how much they have figured out EBUBU here. They were going for that second PC, not going to find it there. No fault of their own. There was not a solve to be had. But what they do have is a 17 spike being sent over off the bat. But EBUBU responds in kind with a 12 and then another 5 off of that. And now both players are sitting on a bit of cheese.
Yeah, Backchess though digging through said cheese here. Trying to find the downstack just in time for EBUBU. EBUBU, on the other hand, choosing not to interact with the cheese too much and build up instead, going for the greed as we've seen them do before. We're gonna have to see if that works out though. Road to H-Rank pushed up to the top, trying to find the downstack in time, which they do, miraculously, for the perfect timing here. EBUBU trying to find a bit more pressure, but it is slowed down as the back-to-back is finally broken. And Backchess is the one that's going to be putting on the pressure for this game.
Ooh, and speaking of pressure, EBUBU in a very high pressure scenario right now, finds the countering to 4 to survive just a little bit longer, finding some skims, but will it be enough? It will not, and now it is all tied up. Back has brought it to 4-4, and now it is EBUBU who needs to make a change. We can see that Backchess has adapted to sending more cheese instead of this sort of clean approach they had initially gone with, and now, what do you think EBUBU can do to adapt in their own right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think a major factor when it comes to cheese is not just your downstacking prowess, but it is your canceling power. If you cancel off all the cheese, none of it will even see your board. So it's definitely on EBUBU to find the right timings to cancel the cheese when it comes in. But speaking of cancel, Road to H-Rank really needs to be canceling this attack from EBUBU, as it does slow down a little bit, allowing Road to H-Rank to have a little bit more breathing room to continue fighting on in the game. EBUBU is the one with a bit of cheese and misdrops on the board, but trying to continue on the pressure as powerfully as they can.
Ooh, Backchess setting up this sort of TSS system where they go back and forth with these TST-like shapes, but instead opt to take smaller spins with them, and has left them with a great position to accept and send back some garbage, and that they do, finding a nice multiplier out with that 3 combo that's going to put EBUBU in a bit of a rough patch, but instead EBUBU is using that cheese in stride, literally here, getting a nice TSD into the TSS, opening it up with the quad, and the back-to-back is online here, and Backchess is starting to speed up. We can see that the burst speed is coming out, but an unfortunate misdrop on the T is going to stifle any attempted combos.
Yeah, EBUBU really put their foot down and said, you are not going to send any more lines. I'm in the driver's seat and I'm going to be taking the lead with this game and my offense here. I don't know if they're going to continue on with that, but Backchess might be the one that needs to adapt if EBUBU keeps up this level of pressure. Speaking of the pressure though, EBUBU putting on the pressure with a back-to-back 5, 6, 7, 8. The LST is ridiculous as EBUBU takes another point over Road to H rank.
Alright, and here we go. If EBUBU can keep it like this, the script will flip once more. We can see that comeback has been stopped in its tracks now, but can EBUBU retake the lead for long enough? Oh my god, they might be able to. This is 200 APM right now. They are keeping this pressure on. They are not stopping. This is looking like promo numbers at the moment, and they unfortunately misdrop at a crucial moment, and it's back coming in with the 240 APM of their own to bring it up to 5-6. This is looking like a much different match from when we saw it just 4 games ago.
Absolutely ridiculous. The scripts are flipping constantly as both players are trading blows offensively and defensively. Speaking of offense, it seems like both players have PCs. Not sure if anyone's going to get another one though here.
Yeah, they both saved into IDBC and were like, well, this isn't one of the 3 main setups, so we're going into power stacking, and then they just moved on with their lives. And that's honestly respectable. It shows how much of a nerd I am that I immediately was like, oh yeah, you need to build this IDPC, because that's not real. But you know what is real? This 7-5 that EBUBU's brought it to with 7 back-to-back, and that is looking like a big deficit, honestly, compared to what's been going on recently, because they've seemed a lot more evenly matched than they were initially, and now it's sort of starting to swing again.
Yeah, contrasting with the last game though, instead of both players playing super defensive, it seems like both of them are just going for the offense in the opportune moments here. Taking the offense though, EBUBU really putting on the pressure for Road to H rank, who's pushed to the top of the board, finding the cancel just in time for them to survive, as EBUBU goes for another 11 spike. Road to H rank does have the out here. A couple T-spins coming through, and EBUBU's pressure is going to start to slow down as Road to H rank goes for another punish.
Ooh, and speaking of, it is Backchess now who is going to be faced with a lot of clean garbage to use. EBUBU, though, sitting on the back-to-back at the current moment, gets the Kaidan to keep it going, gets another one, opts with the TSS instead, but makes a rough L misdrop, and this is going to be a great opportunity for Back to survive with a nice 180 fix on that L piece of their own, and that was a really unfortunate thing to let slip from their grasp. If you are EBUBU there, that was a perfect opportunity to take another game and expand that lead, but now, instead, it's looking like it's Backchess who's in the superior board state, and that is exactly where you don't want to be if you are EBUBU and you want to keep this momentum going.
Speaking of momentum though, it seems like Road to H rank's momentum is grinding to a halt after a misdrop, fixing it up, but a misdrop again means that EBUBU is in a position to punish. They don't really have anything on their board though, which is very unfortunate for them at the moment. EBUBU's looking to get a bit more of a down stack combo, not going to back-to-back, but it seems like they could be going for it with this huge fractal here into an 18 spike. Backchess does have to cancel, trying to find a way out, going to the down stack though. EBUBU's well is completely open with the 1-8 stack.
Yeah, this is so much clean garbage for Backchess to use. They find a nice multiplier. That's going to be canceled by EBUBU though, but will the rest be? We can see that this is a great opportunity for them to start power stacking, and it's EBUBU on the other hand who will be able to get this back-to-back going first. ×3 already. We can see them starting to speed up a little bit. That is great garbage to keep it going. ×6 back-to-back with the 20 spike already. They set up another donation. ×7, ×9, and they open it up. ×10 with the 12 spike, and this is so much pressure starting to build. They've got the garbage again.
Oh, no.
That eyepiece misdrop is so unfortunate. They fix it up though, but that's unfortunately going to mean that Back is going to have a chance back into this match, and that is going to be really rough because now they're the one at the deficit in the back-to-back. They're at 4, now they're at 0, but Back is at 9.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't even matter how many lines you send to your opponent. If you can't get that last line you need, it doesn't even matter at all. But I mean, it still is important for the long run if you're able to build up enough back-to-back. Back-to-back though, neither player does have enough of a board state for accommodating back-to-back, trying instead to just cancel anything they can and get to a clean board state to start building up some offense here. Both players being really, really cheesy. We were purposely tanking these lines in order for the counter spike. Back chest has a little bit of cheese, but they should have the down stack if they're smart about it.
Absolutely, and it is a testament to the down stack of these players that we are 3 minutes into this one round. Neither player willing to let go of this match, but it seems that EBUBU will be the one to wrench it from the grasp of Road to H rank, bring it up to 5-8, and that was a very, very pivotal match. There is a lot of difference between 6-7 and 5-8, and that can prove very, very crucial in sets as long as these, where these players know that every single moment counts of every match. And speaking of counts, you can count on this back-to-back from EBUBU's side to start building. They're at 8 already. They were looking for the PC. They're not going to find it, but still going to have 10 back-to-back for their troubles. Unfortunately forced to break it as back weight with that Kaidan, and then another Z Dono to time a nice cancel there, but unfortunately going to make a misdrop on the O that leaves them with a very awkward stack to work with.
Yeah, EBUBU's trying to find enough back-to-back to cancel back chest's attacks, and it seems like EBUBU is going to be the one putting on the pressure for Road to H rank, who's pushed up to the top of the board trying to find a down stack combo. EBUBU not breaking back-to-back though. As soon as I said that, commentator's curse. Going back into it. Oh, back chest is the one on the offensive after EBUBU's back-to-back's broken. EBUBU trying to find a down stack just in time, but it's looking very, very precarious for them. EBUBU needs to find a proper down stack and then start building up enough cancel. It seems like they do have the board state real soon though. Back-to-back 5 from EBUBU means that Road to H rank doesn't have the amount of canceling they needed for that game there.
Yeah, an amazing survival to begin with, but unfortunately not going to last through that entire sequence of pressure there. EBUBU now trying to open up with the opener gaming, but it's Backchest who's going to find it first, and unfortunately that one wait by EBUBU almost spelled disaster, but now Backchest's misdrop may do the same. They find a way to burst out almost 4 PPS. That is a huge amount of speed coming out for a player like Backchest, and we know that EBUBU had that opportunity to spike and chose not to, so you've got to wonder, was that a mistake on EBUBU's part?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think that EBUBU is just doing all they can to not only get enough attack, but still keep a solid board state. I feel like EBUBU only really greeds for the back-to-back when it's really, really good. And this right here is one of those situations where they're going to be back-to-back 10, not compromising at all for 1 second, taking it to the match point here for EBUBU. Yeah, finding the proper places to punish is definitely really, really important for these players. As they both go into a PCO here, EBUBU's going to take the first one. Backchest frozen in shock as EBUBU's APM rises higher and higher.
It's lag. I saw that O piece jump. Not like this. Not like this. At the end of the day, for all of the amazing down stacks, the pressure, the back-to-back, it all comes down to the lag spike instant 2PC receive. And sometimes, that's just how it happens. EBUBU takes it.
Honestly, still a very strong showing from both players, but regardless of the last round, it seems like EBUBU's pressure is going to be the one to win out in the end here, with 2,000 lines sent. I don't know if that's a lot compared to other ones, but I just saw it now, 2,000 lines. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that was an absolute